I think this is the second time that might have happened. So I had a whole spiel about it. We went down memory lane on how I first discovered Logan. But anywho, what I wanted to start out this conversation with Logan, as I recently just mentioned to him, was asking him what I need to know in order to understand who he is as a person. So I was saying beliefs, experiences he might have had in his childhood, and he was catching me up on his environment and the environment that he's originally from. So you're originally from Alabama, you said. Mm-hmm. And so talk more about how you feel as though the environment has really shaped your perspective.
You know, specifically in the area that I was in, Huntsville, mm-hmm. there wasn't that much happening. There was a lot of people, and there was a lot of like logic thinking people, but there was hardly any places to play. I probably knew like 2 musicians that were like actually like writing music and like really pushing it.
Really?
And yeah. So it felt like it was insane. Like I went to the internet, you know, it's like I went to the internet to see all these different cultures, and listen to all this different music. 'Cause it was like, you couldn't just like go out and like see a show. Mm-hmm. It just wasn't happening, and you couldn't like go out and like play anywhere really. I mean, you could, but it was going to be a bar and nobody was going to be listening. And so for the longest time, that's what I did. I would like go out to bars and play shows, and nobody, there was no listening rooms or anything. So it kind of like early on gave me like a really tough skin, because that's really tough to do, to like write these, especially the songs that I write, like these kind of emotional,
vulnerable
kind of
songs.
Vulnerable and a little bit, you know, out there too. Playing mm-hmm. that to like a Southern crowd that wants to hear, you know, like some good old music, some country music. And so that early on, that kind of, I had to just kind of double down and just be like, well, this is what I do. And like, you know, you either have to, you know, if you don't like it, then I guess that's okay. But, you know.
How old were you when you first started to play these shows? And were you playing your own music, or were you doing like covers then? Like, did you know kind of like your voice, literally and metaphorically?
Yeah, you know, I started playing shows right around the time that I started playing, like a few years into playing guitar, because I picked up the guitar pretty quickly, and I started playing around like 14 or 15. Really, like 15 is when I started to play, and then 17 was when I started making like some money. I would play like open mics from like 14 to 17, wherever anybody would let me, and then from 17 to like into college, I was playing like any place that would let me play. And I was doing like a mixture. I was writing a lot of songs, but I didn't know how to record, and I didn't even know that world at all. I had nobody that I knew was recording. There was no like recording environment. I didn't have any friends that did it, and I didn't even know that you could make music on a laptop. And that's how music was made until literally after college. So like I didn't start recording even until like 2016 was when I first started like I bought like a Mac, and I was like, okay, I got to learn how to do this.
I want to get into that. Like, I'm really interested in that. That's kind of the main thing I want to cover. And also just like creativity in general. Like, you're a really creative person. And so that's something I've realized through my podcast and just through life. I'm fascinated by creative people, although everyone's creative, right? But people that are actively pursuing their craft, their art. And, I want to like lean into that more through my conversations. And so I have a few questions based on that, but like, this is insane. So you were like 14. And so when you were growing up, did anyone in your family play music, or like, did they have an interest? Like, what kind of music were they listening to? Was it like Johnny Cash? Like, what was the vibes?
You know, my dad played guitar. He was an engineer, so he just kind of did it as a hobby. But he passed away when I was like 10 years old. So,
oh wow.
Like he tried to teach me guitar when I was younger, but I just had no interest at all. I was just like playing video games and soccer and all this, you know, just playing outside. But then after he passed away, like I picked up I had a dream. This is the craziest thing. This is how I started playing music, is that I had a dream. I had no interest in playing music before this. And there was this guy there, and he was just like showing me a guitar chord. And in my dream, I was like, well, that's pretty interesting. And it like kind of zoomed in on his fingers. And when I woke up, I was like, oh, that's crazy. So I like went and got this old guitar, you know, it's like dusty, and I opened it up, and it's like his old acoustic. And I put my fingers where they were, and I strummed it. And sure enough, it's an E7 chord, and I just started playing around with that. And I was like, wow, that's really neat. And I went downstairs and I was like, hey mom, do you think I could maybe take some guitar lessons? So like that was the very like beginning of it. Was a weird dream in which I've never like thought about music or anything, and like it was a chord that was in my dream and that's kind of started the whole thing. Isn't that crazy? Like it's
That
really
is.
hard to like even believe it's really like kind of like a magic thing, you know? Like I'd never known what a chord looked like. And and it just showed me what it was. It was insane.
Yeah.
And then I started playing from there.
It's insane, even as much as you're like, oh, I almost don't believe it, but at the same time, like that is what I believe in, though, of like these little moments that lead you. And so that is so insane. Or just how just strumming the chord could kind of like impact you enough to be like, hey, I want to lean into this more, like, can I take lessons? And then like growing from there, right?
Yeah.
And kind of like uncovering that further. That is very insane. So you said you were 10 or 11 when your father passed?
Yeah, 10.
Yeah? Okay. And so then how long after was it that you, sorry, I can't remember if you'd mentioned that. How long was it until like you picked it up after he passed? You said 14, right? Was kind of when you got back into it?
Around 14.
Or properly into it?
Yeah, because I wasn't even interested in it at all. I remember like when I was around like 8 or 9, and he was like, hey, Logan, let me show you this really cool thing. And I was like, oh, yeah. And I couldn't hold my attention at all. I had no interest at all. But he was really big into it. He loved playing like Jim Croce. It was probably one of his favorite. And James Taylor, which is super great too. And he loved the Beatles and, all the great classics. But it wasn't until about 14 that I started playing properly.
Crazy. I just love how you had like such like ambition just straight away and just started playing in front of people, because that takes to like, I play piano and even if my partner hears me, I get really uncomfortable. I like my fingers start getting sweatier. And,
Oh yeah.
And so the fact that just straight away you went into exposing yourself to like exterior perspectives. How do you think that kind of shaped your career as you went along? Do you think it helped maybe that you did it initially before you could kind of like make up stories in your head? Or
Man, I don't know if it did. It very well could have done the opposite, because I kind of just had no fear, and I was like, let's see what happens. And then a lot of people were like, this is bad, and I was like, oh man, and that kind of hurt, like hearing that back. And it kind of, I still experience the same thing that you do. It's like somebody coming in the room, and I'm like, oh boy, like when I'm playing the piano, it's the same thing. I don't know if that ever goes away, and I don't know if like getting that early on was good or bad. I really don't know. I think about that a lot. If putting myself out there before I was ready was the right move. But I don't really think you can go wrong. I really think that as long as you just keep doing something and just continue to the end, that I think things work out as long as you just continue to double down. And if you're insane, then I guess you're insane, and that's it. You're doing what your calling is. You might impact a few people, and that's all that really matters, I think. And you feel good about yourself. At the end of the day.
I think that's awesome. I agree. I just feel like it's like choosing to show up every day, or taking the little steps, because my dad would always say like he wasn't. My dad used to play professional football, like American football. I have to say that because I live in England now. Everyone thinks I'm talking about soccer. And he used to say, he was like, I wasn't maybe necessarily the most talented football player, but he was like, but I could work the hardest. And I know that's kind of like different when it comes to like something that you're like, I mean, he was passionate about it, but I always think of that when I'm working on something. It's like, oh, as I've like kind of gone throughout life, it's like, if I do want to do something, like if you just practice all the time and continue forward, even when you don't want to, like something usually does come of it, even if it's just something you learn about yourself. Okay, hang on. You were talking about Alabama and we were talking about environment originally, and how now you're in can I say like what part of America you're in?
Yeah, like the Pacific Northwest.
The Pacific Northwest. How did you get up there? What was the path to there?
It's a kind of a magical thing, truly. How it is a magical thing. I was making music I was going to school. I was going to master's school for recording arts in Tennessee at MTSU, which is a great school. I love it. It shaped me beyond belief. And I went to 2 years there.
Can I pause you there?
Yeah, yeah.
Before we go forward, when did you decide, like, okay, I want to go to school for this? Like, what was that whole process, deciding to go to school for music?
Yeah, so I came out with a record. There was one day where I just decided, like, enough is enough, and I just worked every day and came out with a record. And I put it out there, and nothing happened because of it. And I was like, well, like, I think I love this. I mean, because I fell in love with it, and I wanted to make better stuff. And I felt like I hit a wall. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just all going by ear, and I had no training really. I just kind of like, I wanted to get better. So I just was like, well, this school is really good, and it'll be in-state tuition for me based off of where I live. So I just signed up and took the test or whatever, and moved to Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
And so before that, you briefly touched on it prior, like, so you just bought a Mac and just started, like, Googling things, like YouTubing things, how to record. And
I didn't even do that, man. I just liked.
Were you using, like, GarageBand? Like, tell me your setup. I'm so curious.
Yes. Well, okay. Well, I actually came out with an EDM kind of like crazy record first. That was literally just like a laptop and like a Casio keyboard that I like was transferring information over to the computer. So I kind of used it as like a controller. And that was it. And just headphones. And so like it's really limiting. So you can really only make that kind of music, like EDM. At least it was easier to make that kind of music. So I did that for a little local production of the Mad Hatter that they were doing, like an Alice in Wonderland type of deal. And that was just amazing. And I put that on like SoundCloud, and I loved that process so much because it was just, you could just be crazy. You just did whatever you wanted to. It was just like complete creative freedom, like be as crazy as possible. And that was my first
And
setup.
so how did you even get into that? Like, how did you even get this like keyboard and know that you could do that?
I think the keyboard was just something I had laying around, like that somebody gave me long ago, and I didn't even think about it. But then I honestly, I really don't remember or know how I got into that first project. I think I really don't remember. I just remember that a friend of mine who is like the director of that theater production contacted me, and they were like, "Do you think you could do this music?" And I think maybe from there, that's when I was like, maybe I could do that. And I took some recording classes in undergrad, and they were really limited. They were just so bare bones. So I think I knew like a tiny bit, like at least like about GarageBand. And I think GarageBand was the first thing that I was making stuff on. And then I heard about the upgrade Logic, and that's still the system that I use today. Yeah. So yeah.
And so then that, after you were kind of playing around, and then you put out the album, and then you're like, hey, I'm actually into this. So then you decided to go to school, you said, right?
Well, yeah, so the EDM record kind of thing. And then, like this crazy folky, like big thing that I did. And then I was like, okay, now I really want to learn like how to get really good at this. Yeah.
What do you think you learned, like, after you created your first album outside of the EDM experience? Like, what do you think you learned, or like, how did you feel once you finished creating that?
I loved it so much. I felt like it was stuff inside of me that I wanted to express for so long, but I just didn't know how to. And when I was a kid, I would do like looping and stuff like that. And I always would tell myself, like, man, I wish that I could just like play with multiple versions of myself, because I feel like it's really difficult for me to communicate to somebody else what it is that I want. And a lot of people that I'm playing with, they don't really understand what it is that I'm playing or the way that I'm playing. And so I wish that I could just play with myself. And yeah, that kind of allowed me to do that, and that's still how I do it today. Just like laying out a track and then playing on top of myself, and then again and again and again, and just making this big collection of me. And same thing with like voices, like my voice, and then like doing it 6 times and just making this like large expression of myself. It's just amazing.
I like got goosebumps when you said that. I think that's so cool.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Thanks.
So then after you did the 2 years, again, how did you get now over to the Pacific?
I took 2 years and I was about to graduate. I have one more year, and I still might go. But the thing about like music, and this, at least being like a producer, is it's like having a degree doesn't really. I mean, it's a degree to where you can teach in a university, which would be so cool to do. But I don't know if I necessarily want to do that. So I went to school to learn, but then also to just meet people, meet connections, and to get better. That was like my ultimate thing. And so I'm 2 years in. I'm about to pitch my final project to graduate, and I start watching Isabel's videos just off randomly. It was to where now I'm like here in the Pacific Northwest, just living just the greatest living life, just like completely different than what I thought I would be doing.
I kind of want to come back to that, so we're gonna put that to the side because I want to talk more maybe about like how that environment is like impacted you now, and I have some questions around that, but I want to kind of go back to the music side of things. And so can we dive deeper into like what actually goes into you fully produce all of your music, is that correct? Like
That's
everything is done by you?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Okay, so how does that whole process start? Like, we can even go down to like, what is like the inspiration? Like, how do you get inspired to create your music? Does it start with words? Does it start with a sound, a visual?
Yeah. I think it starts every time with a feeling, for sure. Like, I'll always start every song with chords, either on the piano or on the guitar. And it's a feeling, it's you can almost feel what the song is going to be about when you hear just the music of it. And a lot of the times it's just me fiddling around with the guitar or the piano until I can find that feeling, or if that sound can resonate with what it is that I'm feeling that I might not even know that I'm feeling, So it's like I'm waiting to I'm just all day just strumming, like trying to find that connection of like the expression of what it is that I'm feeling that I don't even know that I'm feeling yet, maybe, or something. But yeah, it always starts with guitar or piano, and then I build a melody and words off of it. Normally melody and then words. I feel like just the sounds of things make even more sense than the words. And when the words, match up to the feeling, it's great and it's amazing. And sometimes that all happens all together and it just spills out of you. But like, I think a lot of the time it's manifested. I think that you have to search for that expression and like really just give it the space that it needs. And it'll come a lot of the time. And a lot of the time I've written songs before where it's like, I'll just completely let myself go and just start saying things. I think Paul McCartney did this. He would just like open his mouth and just start saying things and just like sing whatever it was that he was feeling. And he wouldn't, because when you do that, you have a voice in your head that's immediately like, what are you doing? This is crazy. Like, stop,
Yeah.
But if you just ignore that and you just keep doing it, I've written songs before like that where they didn't make sense until like a month later. Like I've written them all out and it's like almost been this like weird prophecy or something, it's like something like that. Or I've written a song where it didn't make sense until a month later and it was about 2 years ago. It's just
no way.
And it was really cool to hear that and to be like, wow, and just listen back and it's just like magical. It really is like amazing. But yeah, I think it all starts with just chords for me and melody. Sometimes listening to a song too and being like, I want to emulate that.
You.
Yeah.
Like, I love it. When you said that, I think of like a writer, like an author of say like a book, right? Not necessarily music. And I think of the whole kind of like quote of like sit in the chair, right? It's like I think, at least for myself, when I first started kind of, and it's been a process of like you said, that other voice in your head of being like, what the fuck are you doing? Like the judgment, the ego, it has had such a strong hold on me my whole life so I'm 25 now, and I keep hinting to like, oh, England's really like helped me. And I think a big reason is like, it's really allowed me the space because my pace of life is slower, because I didn't know anyone when I first moved here besides my partner, to kind of let go of that judgment and explore like the more creative side of myself. And so But with that being said, I think like I started painting, and if I pick up paintbrushes and I can't just start painting straight away, I get frustrated. And I'm like, no, like you need to show up every day. It's like those little nuggets of like hitting the right chord or painting the right thing, writing the right words. Those are like gifts from the universe or whatever you want to call it. But you almost need to like earn it almost in a way. Like you need to continually show up every day for it, but it's really defeating. But I feel as though once you acknowledge that, like, okay, you need to kind of like try out the different things and play around. It's not just a natural talent. Yes, talent does contribute, but like, I don't know, it brought me a lot of peace and actually kind of made me feel more like empowered to go forward. Am I sounding a bit odd?
No, you're hitting it right on the head. That is totally it.
Yeah.
That reminds me of like Elizabeth Gilbert. She helped me
Yes.
tremendously, man. That Big Magic was so good. That book in particular was just like, God, I just resonated with it so much. And I think, that really, I really need to reread it is what I need to do, because I'm about to start a new project and I'm feeling the same feelings again. And I think it's just like a constant battle. You just have to show up every single day and like, and face that fear of just like, and face yourself. And that's hard too. And but I think you're right though. I think that as you do it and as you like stumble every single day, you do that for like 3 days, but then like you get into the routine, you're like, oh, I didn't die. And you just like, it gets a lot easier.
How it feels though.
Yeah. I know, right? It does. Some days you finish a project and it's like, well, that was just, I don't know.
That was shit.
Yeah.
You're like, I just wasted 8 hours of my life, but you
totally
didn't. That's the thing is like, you needed to, it's like, what is it? Is it Artists the Way where you do the morning pages? Like you need to get the gunk out, right? And so it's like, I'm curious before we go forward, so I read Big Magic and same, like I read it years ago and I was focusing on a lot of other things. I had other things going on. I want to reread it too. But the one main takeaway I took from it was about the idea about ideas of how it's kind of like air. And if it moves through the air and it moves through you, if you don't cling to it, it's going to move on to someone else. Right. So like literally 2 nights ago, I had a question. I always have people I want to talk to on my podcast, and whether it's now or in 10 years, I don't care. I start writing questions down that I want to ask them. And so again, like my head hit the pillow and this amazing question came through and it was like, I need to get it now, Elizabeth Gilbert. Like I need to get this idea now or this painting now and write it down for tomorrow or else it's going to be gone. So what it sounds like that book had an impact on you too. So I'm curious, like what are some of the takeaways you took from it or from her in general? Honestly,
everything. I seriously like the way that she kind of sees creativity is the same way that I at least resonate with it. Like I love her. I don't know if it's in that book or if it's in a talk of hers. I mean, I know it's in a talk, but I don't know if it's also in the book. She has this story about like how she had this idea for this book and she like kind of had to shelve it. She had to like basically it kind of fleshed out like in an outline. And something came up where she was like, well, I just have to like put this project on hold. And she kind of let it go. And she felt herself letting it go. And she went to a conference like a few like years later, maybe. And she had a friend there that was like, oh, I've got this great idea for this book. And I had like, it was like the same exact idea and the same character names and everything. Like, that's just so amazing to me. Yeah. That's just so brilliant. And that one really stuck out to me because that made me think of it like that too. Yeah. Like, and same thing with a story, doing the story about like, that poet that like was in the field and like felt the poem like pass over her and she like ran back to her house to grab her pen and she felt like she like reached out and grabbed it and wrote the whole thing backwards and it only made sense like the other way around as if she was like catching the tail of it. And she was like,
goodness, no.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. It's kind of
I
the
need
same
to
thing.
reread it. Yeah,
it's so good.
I remember, I feel like it was you that shared something to your story one time and it was a video, it was a reel, but it was like an interview from years ago. I don't know if you'll remember this. I'm pretty sure it was you that shared it. Because I think that's one of the main reasons why like I really resonate with you, I respect you, and I was so excited to talk to you is because of this whole topic of creativity. Like I really, even just like, I don't know you, but even just through your music, I feel as though I can like, I don't know, there's just something about it. Like I just feel really connected to like your perspective or I don't know what it is. I don't know. But part of it, So I always like what you share on Instagram, okay? And so what it was an interview of, I can't remember who it was from years ago, and they were talking about creativity. And I believe they were a painter or an author, and they were talking about when the painting like kind of energy runs out, then I move on to gardening. And when the gardening like creativity, inspiration runs out, then I move to ceramics, right? And just kind of how it's like this continuous flow. And because again, I also think there is part of discipline, but at the same time, sometimes I get frustrated. It's not working. Oh my goodness, this editing isn't coming together, whatever it might be. And so since taking on other hobbies, I have noticed myself being like, okay, I'm frustrated with the piano. I'm gonna do my knitting. I do knitting now, and I'll like go do my knitting, right? I don't know, that one just like really stuck with me too. Do you remember which one I'm talking about or no?
I do remember.
If you don't.
I do. Yeah, I know. I really do. But I don't remember who said it. But yeah, I do.
Yeah.
And I think that's super important to do too. I think giving it space. That's kind of what I've been doing lately is just like giving it space. Like I feel like I just like did this new thing and I like made this new record and I put it out there and I just like feel completely empty and like I need to fill myself back up with something and whatever that is, you know, like I've been like kind of diving into like just like stuff I did as a kid, you know, and stuff like that, like nostalgia and just
like what? Like what are you doing?
You know, honestly, it's just been like when I was a kid, I used to like read and write a lot of poetry, and I stopped that for a long time. And I've been really trying to get back into that. I feel like when because it also kind of it helps tremendously. I mean, being like around words and like focused on words is really important, and it's kind of hard, at least for me, to multitask and to be in one project and then to also do this. So I kind of like shut everything out when I'm in a project, and I'm like, this is what I have to do because my brain just goes all over the place. So I have to do it that way. So yeah, I've just been like really working on words and like reading a lot more, which I think is a great way to fill up your cup again, you know?
Yeah. What are you reading? Like, what do you like reading? I love books. So that's like as cheesy or like silly as it is, like, oh, like what's your favorite book? It's like, no. It's one of my favorite questions. Like what have been some of your favorite books or what are you currently reading?
You know, probably some of my favorite books. I really love the writing of C.S. Lewis. I think that he's really incredible. I think that the way that he kind of like crafts a story and the way that his imagery is really amazing. But I've really been reading less like novels and reading a lot more just like poetry. And so like poets like probably my favorite poet is Anis Mojgani. He's the poet laureate of Oregon, and he's just he's like a freak of nature. He's so cool. He kind of like he uses words in a really weird way. He doesn't necessarily care if they make sense. He just kind of wants to like convey this feeling to you, you know? It's like when you hear the word like swamp, you know, you think of what a swamp is, and he'll use that in a place that doesn't belong at all. But like it really kind of conveys this feeling that I've never really resonated with before, but I've always felt. So tons of Anis Mojgani. I love him so much. A lot of E.E. Cummings. I love E.E. Cummings. I think his work is beautiful. The way that his love poems are just like, they just make me ache. They're just like the greatest love poems. Have you ever read E.E. Cummings? God, his poems.
Like, obviously I know who he is, and I'm trying to think, like, what would be a really common popular poem of his? I won't read it now, but I will keep it for after. And like, I'm obviously going to look up these people after. I'm curious.
You know, honestly, I'm embarrassed to say that I can't like even think of any of the names of them. I just like have.
I don't think it's. I get it. Yeah.
I just have like a book of his, and I'll just kind of flip through it, and yeah, I honestly don't know the names of it. A lot of the times, I guess I just like start reading. I don't even think about the name. Maybe that's bad, but I'm also Mary Oliver, especially in this environment, is just amazing. Have you read her?
I have not. What has she written?
Amazing.
Like what's some of her work?
Same. It's a similar thing where it's like I honestly like don't know the names of her stuff, but it's like all of her poems, all of them are nature based, and so she just like writes these beautiful poems about like the nature around her. She was like, I think she was like immersed in nature, and she was just the way that she wrote about it was just, God, it was perfect. It's weird. It's the perfect kind of poem for like when you're alone in nature. And so because of the way Isabel and I live our lives, it's like it's just perfect. We have that book like right on our shelf, like right there. And we flip through it like all the time because it's just so beautiful and so inspiring. Yeah, definitely worth
I'm
checking
gonna add these
out.
to my list. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Mary Oliver's super great.
Okay. I'm excited because even here, like, so I said to you, I'm from the mountains normally, but I live in a seaside town, and it's funny here. It used to be like a mining town, and so people have like generationally lived here for like it goes back like as far as it goes of this exact same town. Like my partner's family, like everyone is from here, whereas like back home, like everyone where I'm from is like from Denmark, all over the world, right? And so they just kind of, I think sometimes they're like, oh, it's just like this town, it's not that great. But I came here and I was like blown away by just like the littlest things because it's just so different, the environment.
Yeah.
So anyways, I feel this like really, I feel as though I've been gifted. Part of like this chapter is being gifted with like this access to the nature because I've been living in cities lately. And so, yeah, I'm definitely going to look into those poems.
Yeah.
I want to go more into on this kind of like thread around creativity. And like kind of like this, like how much do you like have to show up and have some sort of like discipline and structure to like how much is it like creativity, like being in the feminine energy and just allowing it to flow and like your intuition. So I'm curious, do you have, and I struggle because I've just met this this artist. She's so cool. We've become friends. And I went for a coffee with her the other day, and I'm kind of, I feel like constipated like verbally of what I'm trying to ask, and like I'm still trying to like taste the words on till I get it right on what the question is, if this is making sense. And so kind of just like, what is your creative process look like? Is there a ritual behind it? Are you burning incense before you start playing? Because that's something I started doing. It's been great. Or like it was the other night I realized I was like, I never realized I had a ritual, or I kind of like committed to a ritual. I was like, you know what? Burning incense is great for me. I'm going to do that every time like I'm creating, right? And so is it that? Do you have like a structure of like, okay, I go in and I play around with instruments once a day? Or you like, it's all intuitive?
Man, yeah, you know, it used to be like that. When I was writing my second record, it was like that all the time. I
like the record called 2, because I know because I don't know, because you have one called like Family in between. So and then you had like this. I sent you a message one time and I was like, oh, great work on Youth. And then I realized I was like, is that even a new song? Has that been out for ages? And I sent you the message and I was like, he's probably like, yeah, okay, cheers. But I was like, I just discovered it.
I know, man. I sometimes I just do things and I just like I can't overthink them, and the way I thought of 2 was that it was really similar to the process of making my first record, and that's kind of why I wanted it to be called 2. And when I came out with my second record, Family, Isabel was really helpful in that because I was still really insecure and I didn't want to put it out, and she was like, you just got to put it out there, and I was like, okay. She was like, but why isn't it called 2? And I was like, it's just because when I had the idea, I wanted it to be called Family. I think that whole record is kind of like about family and about like love and what it means to like make a family, work and stuff like that, just all those nuances. But then this 2, my third record, I wanted it to be, it was just the process of making it was very similar to my first one, which was just like literally grunting through the entire thing and like being like, I just got to do this thing. But on my second record, Family, it was these like methods and these like rituals of like doing it. I was so in the vibe. I like set up this little hole. I recorded everything on the floor. I set up this little like to like stay really grounded. I set up this little hole and like had all my stuff kind of in a circle. And it was so like, it was really beautiful. I loved the process of that whole record. And I'm hoping to do that again for my fourth project. But I would do all that different stuff. I would like, I wore a hat even. And I would be like, I'm going to wear this hat. This hat symbols that I'm working. And that's, this hat symbolizes like who I want to be. And I'd like wear that when I would like do stuff, and I would burn incense, and I was all into it, man. I was like completely woo woo. I had like crystals and everything. I was going all in.
It's not woo woo to me. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, that's the thing. It's crazy. It's like, I don't know if this has happened to you, but it's like, I fully believe in that stuff because it has literally changed my life. But then if I go far away from it, it's weird. It's like, if you step away from it for a while and you look back at it, I don't know, at least for me, I don't know if this happens for you, but like I start to doubt it, and I'll be like, well, I don't know, maybe it could be. And I don't know why that is, because I've seen it change my life, and I've seen spirituality like in different ways just like completely change everything about my life. And for some reason, I'll doubt it, and I know, and I shouldn't. I know I shouldn't, because it's the only thing that's really ever worked. And it's strange that I feel this like feeling of, well, maybe it's all just, I don't
Bullshit.
know. Maybe it's all just in my head.
Yeah.
But on that that feeling on the second record, I did that all the time. I had rituals, and I probably made like, actually no, I didn't. There weren't many songs that I didn't use, which I loved, because probably on the first record and then my most recent record, I wrote like hundreds of songs and like narrowed it down. So it was like this like just blood, sweat, and tears kind of method. Where on my second record, it was like I didn't even show up to the process until I got ready to do it. Like I kind of like filled myself up before I'd even sit down, or I wouldn't, or I would just be like doing any like on my phone or something, and all of a sudden I'd feel this feeling, and I'd be like, time to go. And since I lived alone, and since it was like during the COVID deal, I had the ability to just be like, time to go, and it just like would sit down, and it would happen. And sometimes, it would happen so quick. A lot of those songs happened so quick, and they're still some of my favorites. I love them so much. I think that record is like, it's the most insane thing I think I've ever done. But I don't know. I really love some of those tones. I want to make something more like that, I think.
Are you saying family or two?
Family.
Okay, that's that's what I thought, but I just wanted to double check, because then you were like, I was living alone. Insane. So much there. I just want to touch on the spirituality thing. Like, I don't know if I'm like, I don't know if I feel like I understand what you're saying, and it's been interesting. Like, I'm in a really interesting place in regards to like my like spiritual journey. I feel as though at the moment, and I'm cringing just using those words, and I don't know why, but I feel like that is what it is that I'm working through. So like, I feel as though I kind of like embarked, like I kind of started like becoming aware of things when I was about 19, and then I had some books that really impacted me, and then that really empowered me to like kind of like go out and face the world in a different way, from a new perspective. And then I had life experience that really like shaped me, right? And again, it was like this, as much as I'm like, oh, it's just a book, and it's like, well, no, the book completely changed my life. It allowed me to feel things I'd never felt before, etc. And on the notion of like kind of like being like, oh, like judging it, like I'm the same. Like I have crystals, I have all the things, I do the meditations, I do the weird dances, like I'm open to it all. And lately I've just been like really allergic to the noise, and maybe like the
It's a cool way to put it. I like that.
I think, and I'm going to take full ownership of this, because I also think it's what I am choosing to put my energy, my attention towards on. And this is what pisses me off, is it's all subconsciously, but yet I have control of it, meaning my phone, meaning what's online, and kind of like the spiritual spaces online and things like that. And it's like this, like spirituality, like that is the word I use. Like it has changed my life. It is a huge part of my life. It's kind of like the underlying stream within who I am and my everything about my life. But I'm feeling this weird is it I don't know if juxtaposition is the right way of saying it. It's like I'm experiencing these things and it feels so good, and I used to talk about it a lot. I used to like be all up in it, and like lately I've just been feeling this like huge amount of introversion coming, and I'm just allergic to other people's like noise. I'm not saying like you, I'm saying like when you go online and it's like 10 tips to like rah rah rah, and like again, I think it's like my what I'm giving attention to, and maybe what the algorithms are feeding me, and maybe I just need to get offline. But I don't know if I'm making sense, but I've just felt this like whoosh of, I used to be quite extroverted and quite vocal about it, but I'm like, I feel like I'm going through like a cocoon season
interesting
in my life. Yeah. Like, I feel like it's just a seasonality thing. Like, I think I'll go back to community and like sharing about my experience, but lately I'm just like,
yeah, totally. So you were saying, so like when you see some stuff online that's talking about like spirituality, that kind of like makes you like close up.
Yeah. Or just, do you know what I also think it is? And now I'm like saying it out loud. I'm like, I think this, I need to sit with this, because it's like, am I just judging? And like a judgment is just a reflection of myself. Do you know what I mean? But it's not judging. It's like, it's more so I feel as though a lot of things are inauthentic. So like you and I talking about it, I feel I'm like resonating with it. I'm connecting with it. I feel so like seen. I feel connected. I'm so grateful you're sharing this with me. But I think it's maybe other things I'm like, this just feels so authentic. And it's same with like YouTube. And I'm literally not just saying this, like, but Isabel's one of the only YouTubers I watch now. And it was like, I was big into YouTube, big into like the spirituality, like self-development, just like really like perspective shifting creators. But again, like, it really has to be authentic, and I'm struggling to find individuals that are authentic. But when I do, I really vibe with them.
I totally.
So that was my
that.
tangent. Sorry about that.
No, I totally get that, and I've been feeling the same thing lately, in kind of a different way. But there's like social media in general, and the internet. It's so exploited. It's just like exploited the things that I love, and I think that that's the biggest thing for me. It's like, Isabel and I share a phone sometimes, when we're like traveling, and like I'll just like we'll be on Instagram, and I'll see her like feed, and it's like it might be like a beautiful like scene, and what would used to make me just like be like, oh my gosh, what a beautiful scene. Now it's like, oh geez, like it's like it's so saturated and so exploited and so like there's just it doesn't feel good for some reason. I think it's just like. It's kind of ruined this like specialness about like some of these places and like some of these cultures. It makes me want to close up too. Like I really, and same thing with like spirituality. Cause like some of these people, it's like, they're just trying to like, which I don't blame them because they're just trying to make a living, but like. And
I feel like they do have a foundationally good intention, right? Yeah. So I'm not going to deny that, but I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah, it does the same thing to me. It makes me just like close up as well. I try to stay off of my phone as much as I can, but I'm sure like everyone else, it's just like if you're not on it, it's hard to conduct your business. It's hard to conduct yourself as a creator because it's essential.
Well, that was going to be what I was going to ask you next. So like, then how do you balance it? Because I'm sure a lot of your promotion, does that not come from like social media and putting yourself out there? Like even you use Spotify, right? I mean,
Totally.
Okay, Spotify's not even a thing. Ignore that. But you get what I mean? Like I find out about what's going on with your music when you come out with new songs through either Isabel's videos or your Instagram.
Through Instagram. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I mean, that's so sweet of Isabel for doing that. I never say like, Isabel, please put this in.
I know.
It's
Dude,
actually,
don't worry. That's clear. I feel like you don't give that vibe at all.
It actually makes me like really uncomfortable when she does. She'll be like, what do you think about this video? And I'm like, well, it was really great until this song came in. I think you probably should use a better song here. No, it's really sweet that she does that, and that's been really amazing. But honestly, I just only focus on Instagram because I can't focus like people that like I don't have TikTok, I don't have Twitter. I think I might have an old Twitter, but like I don't do any of that stuff. I just use Instagram, and it's really just to try to share the things that I really love because I think there are some really amazing things on Instagram.
Same.
And so I think it's just kind of like a double-edged sword because you can get sucked into it, but if you stay really intentional. I mean, I've learned great like producing tips. I've learned great. I've seen like really great like spiritual like speakers that have like really impacted my day in a positive way. But I've also found myself at like 1 a.m. like just being like scrolling just forever. So I think it's just always going to be there, and we just have to be like just disciplined about it, just notice it, just be aware that, oh wow, this is happening. And sometimes I feel like it's okay to do that, just it's been a long day and I just kind of want to veg out. I just kind of want to sit for 30 minutes and just be a complete vegetable. I don't know.
Yeah. Even like, because I struggle but social media has like, as much as I like sometimes give it a bad rap, it's like it's changed my life, it's changed my perspective because it's opened like YouTube has been such an amazing platform for me. Podcasts have been so amazing because again it's just opened my mind to different perspectives, but at the same time it's like all of my work I've gained through social media, like whether it was like connecting with people or whatever it may be. I actually work, some of my work is like doing social media management, whatever, but at the same time, more importantly, is like through social media, I've met some of my closest friends that have had the most important impact on me. And whether it usually was starting with my podcast, but I would reach out to them originally through Instagram, right? And then we'd record together and we would like literally, one of my best friends, we met her through the podcast. So I'm like, I can't give it that bad of a rap, right? Like it does connect us and really makes the world smaller, but in a positive way, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. That's same thing for me too, especially being like from Huntsville. That's where I went, man. I was like, it was same thing, like some great
your
friends.
story, yeah. Well, Isabel, like
yeah,
your
exactly.
partner, the person that's probably just like, I know my partner's changed my life the most.
Totally.
So it's like, yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
You met her through socials.
Yeah. I know, it's weird.
It is crazy. Okay, I have like a list here of questions.
Let's do that.
Okay, I'm curious your thoughts on this one.
Okay.
Do you think creativity is part of human nature, or do you think that it's something that we have to like nurture and learn how to craft?
Oh man. I think that we are creative by nature. I think that yeah, I think that it's something that you can kind of manifest and like and grow. But I think that a little bit of creativity is in everyone. I feel like even just like choosing what to wear can be like create. I think we are. I think that every single expression that we do. I mean, I think we're expressive by nature. But I think that it's also a journey if you want to really create something. I think that it's almost it almost is like an essence that's all around us. So there's a little bit in us, but if you want to like really make something, you got to like really kind of cultivate it. So you kind of have to really do work for it to. It's almost like getting a cat to like come to you. Maybe that's a bad example, but it kind of feels like that sometimes. Like you kind of have to like be really still, and you kind of have to like have an intention. I guess that's not how it is with an animal, but you know what I mean?
But I like that about the cat thing. I think that makes sense. Different for a dog. Like,
totally.
Opposite with a dog, right? But a cat, you have to have this very like intentional and awareness to you, I feel like. And they're not even guaranteed to come over, right?
I know. And the same thing with creativity. You're like, man, I did the work. I sat down. I like tapped my leg, man, and they're still not coming. But maybe tomorrow.
I'll try again.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, so like we've talked more about or we've talked about inspiration, and so you were saying it's really just like a feeling or just like different. Hang on, no. What I want to ask is, see, again, I have these questions in my head, but then like my mouth can't, like this constipation from head to mouth. That's the only word I can use.
I totally get it.
This might be like a silly question because you'd be like, yeah, I'm basically everything, but has there been experiences that you've had in your life that have really had a strong impact on your like music or just like your art and your creative expression? What comes to head or what comes to your mind like straight away when I said that? Like what's kind of the first thing that you think of?
Just love, man. That's just love. That is it. That is every single song that I've written that I like. Every single song that maybe even every single song that I've ever written is about love or like love lost or in a period of time where I was in love. Yeah, it's literally everything is about love when it comes to my music. Maybe everything that I'm interested in is just an expression of love. I think that's kind of where creativity comes from too. I don't think you can be Elizabeth Gilbert, she says like every decision is made out of either love or fear. There's no, that's it. Everything boils down to love or fear, and I love that so much. So it very well could be that just I think that it's love. I mean, when I really fell in love really like seriously when I was like 20 to 22, and that just shaped my entire life. I mean, it was just like the most beautiful thing ever, and that's kind of when I decided to. That's when my music started to like really resonate with me more, I guess, because I've always liked writers like that, and I didn't really know what that was about until I fell in love, and then it was just it connected, I guess. Maybe I manifested it, I don't know, but I mean, they're all. I think every song that I write is kind of either about like a specific story in my life, or a mix of between like two, or what I wanted something to turn out to be. You know, that's always fun. But yeah, it's always just love. And falling in love was probably the biggest turning point for me when it came to writing, because I think it relates to everyone. It's the most beautiful thing that is. So yeah.
I'm even thinking now that you said that, I'm like, oh, maybe that's why I resonate with your music.
Yeah.
Your music gives me a similar vibe to I hope I say I never know. O.C. Elliott.
Oh, cool.
Do you know them?
Yeah.
Like, I know you're like, I'm not saying you guys are similar artists. That's not it at all. It's more so what I was connecting there was the feeling that I feel listening to their music. I feel listening to your music, and their music for some reason, like, so I've been dating my partner for like, we've been together for 4 years now, and we've always like really like, we're very independent people, and like we like listening to music together sometimes, but like nothing is hit like their music has for some reason. And then not recently, about a year ago, we saw them in person in my hometown. And like, again, it was like a really small concert, because like they are growing, but like they're still a bit smaller, and it just brought us to an entirely new level of appreciation, both individually, like resonating with the music, but then at the same time that we had that experience together, and then we got to see them together, right? And so but it's just what it is so, even I always say it's like my and my partner, I told him this, and he was like, oh, it's the same for me. Whenever I'm feeling a little bit like on edge, maybe if I'm ever like feeling doubtful or like fear, essentially, I'll put their music on, and it really helps to calm me down.
Wow.
And because it's love. Like, that's what I think of. Like, I think of my partner, I think of those experiences, and there's this playlist that always comes up, and it's like them, your music. It's like a mix.
Yeah.
It's like actually a Logan Bowden mix, and it's usually like that you, and I'm trying to think of like other artists in it, and it's just always like just like calms me down. And so I'm wondering if like it's the same thing, and maybe that's what it is. It's just like it's the love, you know. Yeah, that's cool. I just realized that. That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's it's either that or like heartbreak. It's two things, man. It's those two things put together. That's like everything I've ever written about, and really, honestly, anything I'm ever interested in writing about. I feel like I love like expressing heartbreak in like a different way, because I feel like there's a lot of ways to do that, and it's hard to do because it's, you know, you can't just bleed on the page. It has to be like beyond that. It has to be like. For a long time, when I was writing songs, they were terrible, and they were just like way too, like, it was like I was bleeding on the page, and I had to like go through that work, and then I could write, because that's the thing that's worth sharing. You know, I guess there's something worth that too. You know, people like Elliott Smith, you know, could maybe just like bleed on the page, and it sounds really great. But for me, I felt really good about sharing like how I got maybe through those hard things, and the way that I thought about them. After, like, on the other side, that's what a lot of my music's about too.
It's almost like not necessarily like the boiled down, but like you kind of like extracted the value out of it, and maybe like, and then like created something out of that, right? And it's like
totally,
a lot of time maybe it's just like the mess, the noise, the rawness. It's like it's too much, and so you need to just like refine it almost. And
totally, totally. Just
That's
sit for
cool.
a long time. I think that's important to do. I feel like at least for me, I think seasons are really important for writing. I think some people show up every day and they do that, but I can't. I'll find myself when I do that, I'll get really down on myself. Whereas if I just kind of give it some time and follow whatever it is that I feel like I need to be doing that's like bettering me, that's gonna in turn better my music as well. So I don't think that showing up every single day. I think that when you're in a season, you have to stick to it, because it's calling you, and you have to show up to that. But kind of like what you said earlier about that post about like, it's time for me to garden. Okay, it's time for me to do this. It's the same thing. I think, you know, if like I've been doing yoga with Isabel these past few days, and it's just been like amazing. I'm not a yogi by any means, but like it's really great to just like move my body, and like that feels just amazing. It has been making me feel a lot better with my work as well.
It's validating. That's also what I love hearing about, like, from people that I like really respect, like in their creativity, right? So whether it's you in music or an artist or a podcast or whatever it might be, is like, I don't know, that just brings me so much comfort, because it's like sometimes I feel as though I feel as though my intuition and my creativity are connected, right? And so I feel as though slowing down, being separated in this introversion chapter, I'm in this kind of like cocoon phase I'm in, it has allowed the space for my like actual voice to come out, of the deeper, more calm, but like more impactful voice to resonate, right? And I feel as though I've been searching for it for so long, and it only, when I slowed down and stopped looking, is when it kind of came to surface. And with that being said, like, I feel as though I almost don't like trust it enough yet. So I test the waters of like, okay, well, what if I take this leap in my career and like let go of some work so that I can pursue painting more, or lean more into my podcast, right? And I have that inspiration from like this voice inside. Again, it's based out of love or fear. I love that when you said that, the Elizabeth Gilbert quote, because it's like, I still feel as though there's so much fear. That the love isn't there, where it's like, okay, I feel like I really need this. I know this is going to be a silly surface example, but this happens quite often, embarrassingly enough. I'll be sitting at my desk, I'll be working, I work from home, working all day, sitting at my computer, and I'll look outside. It's rare the sun will come out, and I'll be like, oh my God, I want to go on a walk right now. But I'm like, no, you need you need to finish this work. And I just sit and try and finish the work. And then by the time I finish the work, it's raining. It's like, do you know what I mean? And so I try and kind of like challenge it of like, okay, even if it's 10 minutes, Emma, like I have this, I don't want to use the word anxiety, but I have a lot of anxious feelings around like that work and a lot of fear. And so leaning more into like the love of like what feels right in the moment, even if it logically maybe doesn't make sense. So hearing other people that I feel like though are further on their journey kind of say that, it's affirming to me. It brings me a lot of peace.
Yeah. You know, I think there's two ways to do it. I love that idea, but I feel like I've also had success too by just like, it's a balance, I guess, because I've had success from also just being like, I'm just trying to screw myself right now. Like, I need to get this done. I want to go on a walk, but like I got to get this done too. And so I don't know, you know, I think I'm still trying to figure that out, honestly, which one is the best, because there are times where it's like, if I do cultivate that like really safe, like really inspired space, I can work like 10 times faster and get it done in like an hour, which is insane. Or I could grunt through it and be like, are you there?
Hello, I can hear you. I can't see you yet.
Sorry, and the
no, don't even worry.
The internet
I thought you
went
ran
out.
away. You didn't like the conversation.
No, my internet. The power went out, so the power is out right now. But we turned on a jackery into the router, and you know you can still get your internet to work through that. So
is that okay though?
Yeah,
that we finished. I won't keep you much longer.
Oh no,
okay.
So we can keep going. Yeah, it's
thank you, Jackery, for sponsoring the. I'm kidding.
This is brought to you by Jackery.
Discount down below. Okay. I lost you. Are you okay to keep going?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, okay. I lost you. You had said you can take it, or you can look at it kind of like one of two ways.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I was on the edge of my seat.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I was saying like kind of what you said. I think that's a really cool method of like, and probably a more healthy method, honestly. I don't know. I don't know if that's more healthy to give yourself space and to not grunt through it, and then when you show up, you'll be like 10 times faster. And I don't know if that's better than just grunting through it. Probably so, but one makes more. I think there's maybe just two ways to do it. I don't know what is the best way, because I just did the opposite way. I just did like showing up every day. I don't feel like it. I hate this, and I'm just going to do it. But I did get something done, and I don't know. I still don't know. I know I feel better about Family, that record. I feel way better about that personally. But, you know, I don't know. I don't know what is the right way to do it. I bet your way is probably more sustainable. I bet that's probably the best thing to do.
I should add one thing. When I was referencing that, it's usually like my work that I get paid to do, not what I'm like super not the things that I'm necessarily doing for myself. Does that make sense?
It is.
I think that's an important part of it. Like, although I enjoy my job and like I've worked hard to get to a point where I actually enjoy the work that I get paid to do, although it's not my identity, and work with people that I really resonate with. Sometimes if it's something that like I need to get it done, I have a deadline. That's more, I think, what I'm referencing. And again, it's kind of like this thing around like fear and like money and still like imposter syndrome within my career and just self-worth is a huge thing. So much of my work is tied into my self-worth and people pleasing and all the fun things,
That is me to a T, man. That is everything. I feel all of that. It's good to hear that you also do, because it's same thing. If self-worth and people pleasing and just like imposter syndrome, man, that one is a huge one. Have you talked to a lot of people that kind of have that? Does everybody have that thing where they're just like, man, if people are going to find me out,
I'm going to get caught.
Yeah, I
shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
I find imposter syndrome fascinating because I was in a really bad place with it. Like, it got out of hand about a year ago, where it was like literally crippling, and it just took I don't know if it was necessarily that. I think it was contributing, external events were contributing to it as well. But it just wiped out my confidence in a way that nothing has ever had before. Like, I've always kind of felt really like comfortable with myself and known like who I am. And it was like, at the end of the day, it was like, well, I got myself. So if you don't like me, whatever. I mean, as I just said, I was a people pleaser, but you get what I mean?
It's a battle between those two things.
So with that, when I was like, fuck, this thing is just like overtaking my life, and almost it felt as though it had like reaped all of the joy out of my life. Like, even just to wake up and function, it sounds, I don't know, it just sounds whatever, but I used to have to like smoke weed all of the time. Like, I could never be fully sober in order to sit with myself, and it was hard. But that kind of allowed me to be aware of it more, and now I really love hearing people talk about it and their experience with it.
I had that same experience, man. I did this. I was the same exact way. I think that really helped me to process. Like, I did the same thing. I like smoked weed for like an entire year, and I just like thought. I just sat out on the porch and like, went to work. But then when on my off days, that's what I would do. And it was kind of crazy. I could never do that now. But like when I was younger, I did that, and I think that was almost really important, because I had never had to process things like that before, and I didn't know how to. And so I just like, it helped me process those thoughts and feelings. And this is before I even started making music, because I knew I wanted to, but I just couldn't get past myself. And I would do the same thing. I'd smoke a lot of weed. And I think that can hold you back to a certain extent, but I mean, it can also like really show you what it is that you need to let go of a lot clearer. And once you learn that skill, then you can kind of drop the weed. You know what I mean?
Dude, weed has been such a tool for me. And I feel like, and maybe I'm just like, again, where your attention is, like, that's where, oh my God, where your energy is, that's where like things like, right, like grow or whatever, right? And so maybe I'm not looking for it, but because I don't really need to, because I know what it's done to me. But I feel like people need to talk about like how much marijuana is such a beautiful tool. Like, I agree. I feel like sometimes I don't know. It's just like nothing has helped me heal, or a lot of things have helped me heal, but it helps me heal in a lot of different ways. And it's been such a great tool for like my creativity, like we've been talking about, and just like you said, I really liked that, like sitting in and processing maybe some things that I can't do. But I agree, like it can start when you maybe smoke, but again, you kind of have to like continue it within your life as well, like allow it to spill over.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I can't do it anymore though. I think I want to, or it would be nice. It doesn't really do the same thing for me that it used to do when I was younger. it really holds me back now. Now I have like it's voices that like don't serve me. That's like, you need to stop doing what you're doing. You're terrible. Don't stop. And
Interesting.
when I smoke now, it does that to me, and I don't think that voice really serves me. I think I just need to get that voice to go away, and it just is amplified when I smoke, and so it's not worth all the other kind of benefits, I guess, when that happens, because it just puts me in a place that it's not really productive for me anymore. Yeah, so I can't do it anymore. I'm just sober now. It's boring sober life.
No, it also happened to me, like when I came out of that, or when I was in that imposter syndrome, I actually had to do the same. Like I had to like just completely stop for like probably like the longest period I've had. It was like quite a few months. Because it was kind of the same. It was like I couldn't function like by myself. I was spending a lot of time by myself. It was a whole thing. And I moved back to Canada and everything. And I just had to kind of just like I couldn't smoke or anything like that either. Like I had to take a break. Where was I going with this? Oh my goodness. Because it was the same. It was like I needed it to function, but at the same time, it was like it wasn't productive. And I do feel like, because my friend said that to me one time, he was like, I feel as though whenever I smoke, it just kind of elevates whatever I'm in that time, right?
Totally.
Whether that's good or bad. And so that was kind of why I needed to let it go. I also realized I was too dependent on it, but we don't need a tangent about weed anymore.
Totally. He's totally right about that too. It does do that, and it's like, it can be productive, or it can be just like the worst. You just think about all the things that you just like really don't even need to be thinking about.
Okay, I have so many more questions for you, but I'm gonna ask you just one more, and I'm gonna ask if you want to ever come on the podcast again. I would love to have you on again too.
Totally, yeah, I would love it.
So many more things I feel like we could talk about. You're just like a cool person.
Thanks.
So
You too.
Thanks, man. I'm curious because I kept saying, "Oh, we'll come back to this," but so you live in full time, I'm assuming, in like a tiny house, right? You do you live full time on that tiny house?
Yeah, we do.
'Cause you're not there now. That's the only reason I ask.
Yeah. So we do full time, but honestly, it's just I think I recommend to never do that. If tiny houses are great for like one person, but two people, it is such a challenge, and even with the shed, it's such a challenge. Tiny houses are a great idea, and I think that they look so beautiful until you live that life, because you don't think of things like the garbage disposal. There is no garbage disposal. So every single time you do dishes, you have to like bury the like what are you going to do with the compost? Especially when you're out in the middle of nowhere. You can't like just go and put your garbage at the street. So that means every time you have a meal, you got to go dig a hole. So that could be in the ice and in the snow. That's the kind of stuff that you don't see, like on her YouTube channel, and like stuff like using an outhouse, stuff like
in really cold temperatures as well, like the middle of winter, in the middle of the night, etc.
Having like a reservoir, because it's illegal to just plumb in water with a tiny house in a lot of places. So like having a reservoir that you have to fill up from a hose in the cold weather. That's another one. And just kind of not, like somebody we've experienced this just recently, like somebody wants to go to bed, but like the other person's wired. What do you do then? You have nowhere to go. You just have to sit there. And that can, it's just not good. It's beautiful, and there's a lot, and it's so like, I think both of us are so thankful for like the ability to like do that, and like we're thankful for having the space to create, but I just don't think I recommend it for two people in one. If it was like a one person and a writer or something like that, or like they worked online, it would be so perfect, because it would be, your tank would last you 2 times longer, like for water. You have double the space, but for two, it's super small for two people. I don't, the people that do it, man, that's bravo to them. I think both of us are like, we have to change. Something's got to change.
I do always, because I really like minimalism is like a part of my life. I really value it, and from that I've like learned about like tiny houses and things like that. And I do. I've always been fascinated in it. But I do think of that, and I also think of my partner and I, like we live in we live in the biggest space we've ever lived in together. We've lived in many different places, and we actually had to get like, we have a bedroom, right? And we had like we had an office, and then we also had a living room, right? So many rooms, it's huge. And what we realized quickly was like, we need our own space. We're both very introverted. And so now we don't have a living room. It's like my partner's room, my room, and then there is a bedroom. And so I just always think in a tiny home, I think it would be hard if you were more introverted. My partner's really introverted. And so that's another thing I often think about. This, because we kind of talked about, we started the conversation with environment, and I want to end kind of on this question here. Because we've been talking about the tiny home, I'm curious, what do you think you've learned since moving into the tiny home?
I guess, well, learned about myself is that I unfortunately do need like a lot of alone time and a lot of space. I didn't realize that was the case, but yeah, I think I'm really grateful for us building the shed as well, just so I can kind of have. We share that space, but a lot of the time Isabel only needs it when she's editing, so that's like 2 days out of the week, or like when she's doing morning yoga when I'm normally sleeping. So it's having that space is really important, and having your own space is important. But I've also learned in general that you really don't you don't need that much to function. And during like the warm seasons, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to manage. And but yeah, ultimately, I think it's hard to really grow. I struggle to say this because I don't know if that's, at least for me, I think it's hard for me to feel like I'm growing in such a small space. I think a space perfect for you is like just a room. I feel like all I would need is just a room to myself, which is probably what we're going to build when we build a house, is just like a very small cabin. But yeah, I think I learned that like we both really need just our own space, and we function really a lot better together when we have our own space and when we have our own alone time. That's a big thing too, having alone time in a tiny house. I think it's just really, I think for anyone really. I mean, I think it's really beautiful to be together and to live together. And I've never actually lived with anybody before, so that's a big thing too. But I've learned from this experience that like it's so important to like have alone time as well. I think that if you're not serving yourself, you're really not going to be a very good partner. You're not going to serve the other person like the way that they should be served. If you're going through these things that you can only deal with by yourself, I think you got to do that work. But I think it's great to have a partner with you because they can help you alongside that journey that you're going through. But it's so important to just like have. You can feel things shifting. Like when someone leaves the room and you're there with yourself, you can feel it. You can feel the shift in like thought patterns and just energetically. I feel a shift when someone leaves, and it's not necessarily bad or good. It's just different. I feel like that's a really important work to do, and it can be hard to do it when you're in a tiny house. I'm really glad for the shed, just because we have a little bit more separation and everything. But man, when you live that close with somebody 24/7, it's difficult because you a lot of the time, especially if you're empathetic, you choose the other person over yourself a lot of the time, and it's not necessarily a good thing to do. You got to have time and space for yourself, and the other person has to understand that and do the same thing for themselves. I think that's really important too. And I think both of us have learned a really good balance with that over the past 2 years. Yeah, but so hopefully next step would be to have like build a nice little house, nothing too flashy, just something that really works, something with like a basement with like because I need all this space for like, I mean, a guitar can only make one sound for a guitar. I've got to have like literally like 7 guitars because they all make different sounds that only work with other sounds. It's like you can't just play one guitar on every track. I mean, I guess you could, but it's unfortunate that like how much gear I need in order to do what I do. It's just so much it's just so much money, and all of my savings just into gear. It takes up so much space. It's insane. It's like a full room of stuff.
I completely get it. What you were talking about there about like people living in different living in smaller spaces in a different way. Obviously, I've never lived in a tiny home, and this is a story for another time. But everything you said there, I was like, I don't think you can see me at the moment with the internet connection, but I was just nodding my head, and I know when my partner listens to this episode, he will be laughing because we used to live in Australia together, long story short, and like we had housemates, and this is entirely different because I'm not comparing my experience to yours. It's just understanding it through my own, like what you said through my own experience, right? We had just started dating. We were living in a country where we didn't have family or friends, and so our lives just became enmeshed, and it was really detrimental to our relationship. But like we learned so much from it about ourselves, about our relationship, just kind of like what you're saying, just everything you said there. I'm like, wow, yeah, I get that. And it's really interesting because so obviously like I watch Isabel's videos, and like that's kind of like how I know about this tiny home, right? And when I see you in it, and it is something that I often think about because I look up to Isabel in that way, that she built that home, and that you guys, I look up to both of you, that you live in that environment because it's quite extreme. And I know that like what I see online is only probably 1% of what actually happens, although like she's quite authentic, right? But
Totally. Oh yeah. Totally.
Yeah, I've thought about that before as like because of my dynamic in my relationship. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, Logan, like there's so much more I could talk to you, but I want to be cognizant of your time, and like I'm just so grateful that we were able to make this work, and you've stuck through the Wi-Fi and everything. I'll turn it back on. Let's see if it'll work, if I can see you again, although it's quite gritty. But yeah, I definitely just want to say like this conversation meant a lot to me, and I think my head's going to be spinning for a little while after, and I look forward to editing this one to see what I take away again. So thank you so much for joining me on my podcast.
Yeah, thanks. I've enjoyed this so much. You know, it's not every day that you get to talk to somebody that is creating and doing it like full on, and I think that's just amazing because I mean it's kind of hard to meet people, especially people that are like working all the time. It's hard to meet other creators because the people are kind of in their rooms silently doing stuff. So this is like kind of like the way that you meet people now. And so thank you for having me. It's been amazing, and we should totally do it again. It'd be awesome.
Okay. I'm keeping you count. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, seriously, because it's so much fun because it helps me process the things that like I need to be thinking about as well. It's like, so it's been awesome.
That's one of the last is I love that about like, so I edit, I also work in podcasting. I work on other shows, and they're more like, they're similar to mine. They're not like fictional or like narrative podcasts. And it's always cool to see the guests kind of after and be like I love that they allow the guest time to like sit back and reflect. Because I feel as though a lot of people don't have the opportunity, like unless you have an amazing community, which like I'm not saying you don't, or you like go to like a therapist or you have a coach or something that you can like really kind of like unpack how you feel. I don't know, like because I gain so much from it that I do hope that the guests do as well too. And so, yeah, that's my little tangent on it. Yeah,
it was awesome.
Well, thank you, Logan.
Absolutely.
Beneath the moon, hung up still smell the liquor, your breath inside my room, and up we rose, shed our clothes, called